I chose to present my gratitude letter to my mum, as this is my favourite piece I've done in literacy, as I was able to write my thoughts and show how grateful I am to have her as my mum. I found out that there were no challenges in this task. I found that this task fit me well, as I feel that I am a very grateful person, and the importance and benefits of this task made me realise that I am very grateful for my mum and that now I can show her that. I chose this task that I did in numeracy because it was a task we focused on most of the time whilst we were at school. It's a major project that we did last year in Year 11 as well. I chose to do a different industry, which was hairdressing this year, to change things up. I found that it was difficult to find information for this industry as I don't know much about it, but it was important and helpful to my learning to know how this industry now works. In work-related skills, I chose my issue resolution task as my best task, and I feel understanding workplace hazards is extremely important, especially once you leave school and go into the bigger world where you work full-time. You tend to deal with more risks, and it's good to know how to deal with them. I found what was difficult was we didn't have much researching in this class. It was more worksheets on pure knowledge, but this task made me do some research and expand my knowledge in work health and safety. I chose to do my Athletics Day fundraising task in art, as I was really impressed with how Athletics Day went for me, with selling raffle tickets and being able to give the fundraising money to organisations who give it to people, those in need. The only thing I found difficult was trying to get kids to donate and buy tickets in order to win prizes that we had up for grabs. I found this important because it showed me how amazing it feels to be able to give back to my community and those who are in need of our help. In business, the startup costing for running a business was a good task for me, as I was able to understand the importance of starting up a business and doing well once the business has been running. What I found difficult was the costing of everything, as everywhere is different and varies, but it helped me get a better understanding of where I were to start if I was starting my own business one day.
Letter of Gratitude is my best work. I personally think that this is my best work because it came from my heart. This piece of work let me really think about what I am grateful for. Our task was to pick a person who we are grateful for and write a letter to them to express our gratitude. I chose my older sister Naomi as she has helped me through some of the hardest times in my life. I didn't find any challenges with this task because once I knew who I was most grateful for, the words just spilled out and went on the page. This task was beneficial to me because it made me stop and think about what I'm grateful for, which I don't normally do. But since this task, I stop and think about what I am grateful for each day. The numeracy-based industry project was my best work, and I know this was my best piece of work from numeracy because I put so much time, effort, and extensive research into this work. The task was to choose an industry which we are interested in and research about the industry and the numeracy involved. I chose the hairdressing and beauty industry. I faced a few challenges such as struggling to find information, but those challenges were resolved. I think this task was important to add knowledge into an industry that I am interested in. Because this task had extensive things that needed to be covered, it helped me learn and develop new ways of researching to find difficult information. This is my best piece of work from work-related skills because it was the task that I had the most fun completing, and I had free range to do something that I found to be fun and enjoyable. The task was to, as a group, create a game that involved work-related skills. My group chose to create a word search with words that related to occupational health and safety. There were no challenges for this task, and that is another reason why it was my best piece of work. This task was beneficial to my learning because it helped me use new programs that I had not used before and I can now use again. This is my best piece of work because it allowed me to use a website I had never used before, and I think I did fairly well considering I had never used LinkedIn before. We had to screenshot different areas from the website LinkedIn and show that we knew how to use the site, and then we had to write 500 words on the advantages and disadvantages of social media. At the start, I faced a few challenges with navigating around LinkedIn because it was all, but once I got the hang of it, it wasn't so bad. This piece of work was beneficial to me because it allowed me to use a new network, and I enjoyed identifying the advantages and disadvantages of social media. This is my best piece of work for food studies because the task let me be creative in what I wanted to do and it was enjoyable for me. We had to create a healthy meal that we could sell at our school canteen, and we had to do this with a partner. Brianna and I chose to make veggie burgers. A few challenges I faced when doing this task was when we had to actually cook the veggie burgers, the patty started to fall apart in the pan, but with some quick resolve this issue. These tasks let me learn new skills that I hadn't and let me use new equipment in the kitchen I had not used before, like a food processor. I knew that I was learning this year because I am now able to do things that at the start of the year I couldn't. I feel like I have grown as a person, and so has my knowledge. As much as Vinny knows I hated his feedback and gave him a lot of trouble for it, I appreciate that he pushed me to do better because he saw my potential. Some very important advice I would give to my younger self would be, stop and breathe. You don't see it, but you've got this. Stop being so hard on yourself. To be honest, I don't think that school work will help me in the future life, but I think the lessons I've learned while being at school are what will help me in my future. I think this year has been about a 50-50. The schoolwork has taught me new things, but the teachers and students have also taught me new things. Advice I would give to students who are going to be in this class next year would be to have fun and enjoy yourself. The work is only hard if you make it. Apply yourself and you will be fine.
This piece of work is one of my best. I put lots of time and effort into researching this issue, how to resolve it and finding evidence. I struggled mainly with fixing and editing this document, but in the end it came out much better than I ever expected. This is important to me because I grew up attending a school that sold bad foods such as giant cookies, flavoured popcorn, icy poles, etc. And it is important that we make a change for the kids who gain health issues from consuming these foods. This work-related skills outcome is my best outcome. It is important to me since as the team captain, I thought of the idea from an original home project that I completed. My team and I worked extremely hard to plan this market day project, and art is something that I love in my everyday life due to COVID-19. We haven't been able to carry out this project, however, we have put lots of thought and effort into the planning and are ready to carry out the project whenever we can. I am extremely proud of this work. Although it was hard to find information and photos online that were related to this topic, I managed to put together and follow through with a mock charity concert created by me, using my own original idea. I performed 3 songs online for this outcome. I am extremely proud of this outcome due to the fact that music is my love and passion, and also the fact that I based it on our hometown and real issues that have been discovered. This business outcome is my favourite because I had doubts at the beginning. I have put lots of time and effort into it to complete it. It is important to me because I struggled terribly at the beginning with understanding the criteria and following instructions, and I thought that I wouldn't be able to complete it, but I proved myself wrong and got it done. I prefer this project out of all the 8 numeracy-based projects I have completed. It is important to me because I put lots of time, research and effort into it, and spent lots of my personal time customizing the spreadsheets and making them look nice. I struggled with finding statistics and facts to back up the data that featured in the spreadsheets. However, I researched deeply and visited many websites, resolving my struggles.
This is Kyle Hodgetts, and today I'm going to talk to you about my online portfolio. First off, we have my literacy work about how it rains diamonds on Neptune. I picked this work out to represent my literacy work because I believe it visually looks the best and stands out the most from any of my other pieces of literacy work. The information that is in my work I believe to be the most engaging and in-depth, really stating the facts and giving an engaging text to read. The only struggles I found during this was the information, because obviously we don't live on Neptune, so we don't know the facts 100%, but all the studies and theories have good reasoning to believe the stated facts. Onto my numeracy work, I believe this is my best work because I definitely put the most effort into the diagram on the house. All of it was done on Google Docs drawings and took a long time to make because it involved overlapping heaps of shapes and trying to find the right colours to differentiate different areas from each other, such as the patio, the grass and the house. I'm also proud of the research that went into this and how with the plant coverage page, how it's laid out and how I think I designed it. I thought I did that really well. My work-related skills, I believe this is my best piece of work because my work projects and assessments attached to the project all came with a major problem involving the COVID restrictions. So this kind of work was a little harder for me to get my head around because I was unsure with most of it. But I believe that it was my best work because of how hard the scenario was and how hard it has been with the COVID times, how even though we didn't have the full information, we still managed to do it correctly. Other than that though, I believe this is also my best work for WS because it really made me think about the qualities I believe are best needed in a group project, as well as having to give my thoughts on the qualities as well and how I approached them. This task was really easy. There was no real complications, and the only thing getting in the way was only personal motivation to get started. Once I started though, it turned out really good. Words were just flowing onto the page talking all about the goods and bads of social media, as well as the many different ways you can use social media, such as LinkedIn, which was the one we primarily used. This was certainly one of the easier tasks for business and was in depth enough, I believe, this to be one of my best pieces of work. Now finally, up to my last task, which is my cooking design brief. Here we are making a quesadilla, and I've gone a different direction with it and made a Portuguese instead of a traditional Mexican. The problems I had with it were only trying to adjust the method and thinking of different procedures for my different method. We also had to make a brainstorm diagram beforehand and then also list all of the constraints and considerations based around the food itself and what we can get that is accessible. Thank you for listening today and have a good day.
This is my Tianna Ely, my self-expression for literacy. So this one is for my English. The reason why I think this is my best work is because I got to really explore information about an animal which I love, and I got to learn more about the things I didn't even know. And the way I've decorated my pages on most of my work for all subjects is it so matches of the learning outcomes I have done. There was no challenges for this learning outcome as I knew a little bit about koalas, but also learnt new things about them in a long way. This is my numeracy-based project, and I think it's my best work for numeracy as I found it a bit difficult to choose inputs, processing and outputs for the beauty industry. But this work will beneficial me because I have learnt this in the inputs that the beauty industry that I didn't even know about before, and it was hard to put the 3 outputs, inputs and processing while doing this, but I got it in the end. This is work-related skills. The reason why I think these 2 learning outcomes are my best work is because I challenged myself whilst doing this task and doing remote learning and having to do Google Meets, which was really hard because no one would get on the calls or nothing. And whilst learning, we couldn't go ahead and do our proper risk assessment for the market day as COVID taken market day away from the year 12s. You also can't see the whole page on this either, but for business, the LinkedIn was my best work as it was the hardest and most difficult when trying to create an account and having to contact people on it. This is beneficial for my learning as self-development as it is a good to have in a business world. However, I am not sure it will have as much because the profile that I create was the version from the United States and provide to be difficult to use. However, I might be able to use or state online profiles like Seek or Draw, which we use here in Australia. This is my elective community projects. We did an Anzac memorial wreath and we presented it to Miss Berry and Mr. Law. And as we finished the presentation for Mr. Lord and Miss Berry, it wasn't that hard because all of us came together and created the wreath and presented it in a group. But Mr. Lord took the wreath to the Mountain Country Club to have them present it as Staughton College and the community project class. This is something really special for me to take a part in.
This presentation will showcase my best work from each subject for Year 12 VCAL. First subject is literacy. This assignment was learning outcome 3 for literacy. For this assignment, I was tasked to research something and write an explanatory essay on the subject. I based my essay on tornadoes. The reason why this was an enjoyable assignment to me and one of my favourite was because I learned I learned about something on a topic that I wasn't really familiar with and that well knowledged in. And I was also very surprised with how much I enjoyed learning about something I wasn't really interested in the first place. Second subject, numeracy. These tasks were 2 of the 8 activities I had to do for numeracy. In the first task, I had to make a table on the different coffee cup sizes, and for the second task, I had to calculate and estimate the different types of coffee and how long it takes for them to brew. The reason why I enjoyed these tasks was because I enjoy making coffee and I want to pursue a career in the coffee industry. As you see the first task here, different coffee cup sizes, with the different types of coffee, espresso, cortado, cappuccino, latte, and some Starbucks, tall, the different ounces, little pictures here. And you have the second activity, the coffee brewing times, got all the different names, was ristretto, latte, capital latte, piccolo, mocha. You have the different mill and brewing times. Third subject, work-related skills. This task was Unit 1 for learning outcome 3 for work-related skills. For this task, I had to make a project about OHS with a group and present it to the class. For our project, we decided to make a quiz. The reason why I chose this as a task I enjoyed was because I enjoy working with my group and presenting our work in the class. And see the different questions we added on our quiz when we presented. Okay, next subject then. PDS. I'd play this video for you, but this version of screen recorder doesn't accept a computer audio. So I'm just gonna read thing. PDS music. For my PDS subject, I chose music. For this class, students had to choose what groups they wanted to be in. The groups present were performers, recorders and editors, and sound guys. I was part of the performers group and performed about 3 songs in total. My favorite performance of the 3 was when I performed Seether's version of Careless Whispers on drums, which is this video here. I like this task because I got to perform in front of my peers and got to show them my musical skills. Now I can't play this video for you, so we'll just skip to the next one. I'm gonna play it anyway, but that. And my reflective summary. For me, VCAL this year was really fun and very engaging. I had a far better time in VCAL than when I was in VCE. What I really enjoyed about VCAL this year was the hands-on and practical tasks and assignments that I was given, and the fact that they weren't that difficult to complete. I also enjoyed my vet course, kitchen ops and hospitality. The things I enjoyed most about my vet was meeting new people and working with them. I also enjoyed when we had service nights and had to make food for the customers and also serve customers like we were working in an actual restaurant. For next year, I'm going to look for work and make me some money so I can continue my hospitality course at TAFE, get my Cert 2 for hospitality. I really enjoyed my year as a VCAL student, and I'm looking forward to what opportunities await me.
My best piece of work would have to be learning outcome 3 writing for knowledge feature article. I think this is my best work because it was the only work I actually put in all my effort to research and talk about. There were a few challenges such as the topic I was talking about. It was a very known subject at the time, so writing my own article on the matter was a bit difficult. It's been beneficial to my learning by helping me understand the situation at hand and to understand a news article. My OHS board game was my best work-related skills task. I think this is my best work because it was a project where we had to work in groups and use teamwork to discuss the situation. The only challenge was that we couldn't decide on the board game that we were going to do. We had to discuss all the games that we could think of, and the only one that the group liked was a word search. Learning and self-development was used a lot in this task by teamwork, communication, and problem solving. This numeracy work was my best work because it was the only piece of proper math work that we did all year. The biggest challenge was that I'm not very good with technology-based projects, and the outcome was all online and making charts. Another challenge was that the research, it's very hard to find some things based on the beauty and hair industry. Self-development was definitely
from using all different applications of technology on this project, so I was learning a lot in the technology side of things and learning a lot about the industry I am passionate about. This outcome was the latest outcome in food technology. I really enjoyed this project because it was a research task on something really interesting. A challenge for this task was that there wasn't that much information about the chosen subject. I learned a lot from this project because it was very interesting to see the history of the food industry and see how they have come along. To me, this is my best business outcome. I really enjoyed this project because it taught me more social media skills and taught me a lot about social media in general. A great challenge for me was finding enough information about this chosen subject. A great learning experience was finding out so much about how society has changed due to social media. This rental agreement assessment, I think it's my favourite piece of work because the time and effort that went into it took me so long. It's the work I'm most proud of. There was a lot of research involved and a lot of writing. It was hard finding properties suited for people that you don't know in real life. I had to ask for help a lot. It made me learn that when I'm older and when I'm looking for my own home, what's important in a home for me. It was a big assessment and I'm super proud of it. Numeracy. This is one of my favourite pieces of work because this 8-task activity took me the longest out of all the work I've done in Year 12 so far. I did struggle finding tasks for this activity because we had to come up with our own 8 tasks and answer them ourselves. I think it was good for me because I got to experiment more with graphs. It was also one of the more fun activities we done in numeracy, seeing as we all had free range on what we wanted to demonstrate and what we had learnt throughout the year. Issue resolution. A lot of our work-related skills work was easy and enjoyable, so it was hard choosing one that I thought was the best, but I think this piece of work was my favourite because I learned a lot about social media when doing this task. It was more of one of my bigger tasks we did in work-related skills, but I learned a lot about not needing social media and how hard it can be on people today. Business. This task was more of a fun task than anything. We made a social media account on LinkedIn. We got to add our friends, chat to them, and make posts, a little bit like Facebook. It was a really enjoyable task. There was a real task where we had to write an essay on social media and the pros and cons, and which was hard to find sometimes for certain cons, but it all worked out and it helped me understand social media a bit more, and I think it'll help me in the future. Art. These aren't so much an outcome, but they are part of every outcome. We have to write a journal entry every class, and it's probably the most helpful thing I did all year. They kept me on track, and if I ever forgot something, I could always go back and check. They were all planned out and helped me so much throughout all of Term 3. I'm most proud of this because I completed it every single week for 10 weeks and answered any questions that the teacher asked of us. I enjoyed making a journal.
For literacy, my best task was the Attitude for Gratitude letter, as I put a lot of thought into this, as it was a personal task and motivating for me to make. I didn't have any issues with this because it was a task from the heart, and it was just putting what's in my head on paper about my siblings. It was very beneficial for me to make because it was heartfelt, and it was a way for me to communicate and express how I feel towards my siblings. For numeracy, the numeracy-based industry project was something I spent a lot of time on, and it was relevant to what I want in the future. There were quite a few challenges that I came across while completing it. For example, finding the up-to-date trends with pricing on beauty services and looking for average salaries, as it was quite different pay rates depending on different websites. This was extremely beneficial to me, as I have just newly started a beauty service business, and this task helped me get the information that I actually needed, and some things I wasn't aware of that I needed. For business, the marketing flyer that we made was my best task because I was very creative and it was just a fun, simple activity for us. The trouble we had was deciding what template to use because there's so many to choose from. This task helps self-development because it teaches how to advertise and you learn new things and how to do something you might not have known. For work-related skills, the project execution plan was my best task. It was good to be able to incorporate others and work together. I didn't come across any issues during this task because my teammates communicated well to get it completed. This task was beneficial to me because it taught management skills because we had to arrange jobs or tasks to each member. For food studies, the preservation fact file was my best task as it brought out the creative side of me. The only challenge here was working out what information was relevant and how to summarize information to just key factors to make it sharp and simple. This task was beneficial to my learning and self-development as it taught me things about preservation that I didn't know. Year 12 has treated me very well. I've appreciated and enjoyed every moment of it. Considering we've been in and out of lockdown for the majority of the time, I don't think it could have worked out any better for me, as it has helped me accomplish a lot of things, keeping on top of my schoolwork, organising my new lash business that I've now started from home, and also working out what I'm going to be doing next year. My goals in life are to become a fully qualified youth worker. Counselling young people and providing them with the support and care that they need has always been a dream of mine, so I can't wait to make that happen. Advice I'd give my younger self would be not to give up. We're all going to make it through those hard times you've experienced in the past of what have got you here today. For people coming into Year 12 next year, I'd like to tell you, always try your best. Don't give up on any of your dreams. Keep pushing through because your past doesn't define who you are and it doesn't determine your future at all. You can do this.
I believe that Outcome 4 was one of my best works for English. Finding topics to write about has always been a struggle, and there's not much I would change about the school, except the starting times. So this was a chance for me to just rant in an approved manner, and I think that really helped this piece become something I can be proud of. Art is a fun subject, but I feel I don't have that much artistic talent, so I never feel proud of most of my work. But I can feel good about this one. Students were asked to question active members of the community, some asked teachers or the mayor, but I asked my mum. She works in the army as a military police, so I got to complete this outcome, but also learn more about her and her job. Work-related was largely a group-based subject this year, and in one of our projects, my group decided to make a Cards Against Humanity's parody. It was meant to be a fun educational game to teach others about dangerous hazards, It helped us to familiarise ourselves with the hazards and also to work together. My team disagreed with many things at the start, but it smoothed out eventually. But it was also just a fun game to play in class. This assignment was about finding businesses or institutes and researching their emergency and safety procedures. I chose our school. All of my information was taken from the Staughton College Policies and Procedures Handbook. It was really interesting to see what different protocols the school had in place. This outcome really helped to build my understanding of why the school and other businesses do what they do in different situations. Numeracy is normally my strongest subject, especially when it comes to solving equations, but this year was a little different as we had to create an 8-piece project corresponding with our vet. Mine was nursing. I admit it could have been better, and I don't know if this outcome helped me, but it did get me to realize that I don't know as much as I thought I did.
For literacy, my best work was doing the rental agreement. I tried finding a house for each of my clients of what they wanted, but I did have a problem finding a house in a gated community for one of my clients. But I did find him one that had everything else that he did want. This has helped me with real-life experience of what calculations go in trying to find a rental property and the property market. In our business class, our teacher wanted us to make a LinkedIn account. This way we could see what available jobs were around much faster and easier. A challenge I found was finding my way around the site because I was unfamiliar with it. But after having some class time on it and having to take screenshots for our IVET class, I found it much easier to be on the site. For math, my best work would have to be doing the 8 activities where we had to research an industry that we were interested in, and I chose doing the industry of fashion. This has benefited my learning by showing me the background of the industry and the information behind the construction of the garments, allowing me to decide if I want to keep following the career in the future. We had to make a healthy food that would be sold at the canteen for a design brief. I liked how we were allowed to decide on our own recipe as long as it was healthy. I made a chewy date cashew chocolate slice and avocado mousse on the side. When I was cooking, I forgot to melt one of the ingredients for one of my recipes, so that part didn't taste very good. But this learning activity was good because we used the 5 food groups to look for a recipe and we got to work on our own. In our work-related skills class, we all put a lot of work into our group market day project that was going to be scented candles. But because of COVID, we were not able to do the practical side of our project. We have worked as a group to complete the classwork, and this has shown me how to work in a team, the use of technology throughout this project, and the components of making a small business.
Literacy is the most important and hard work I've done all this year. Out of all my schoolwork and my high school life, this has been my competition to deal with. But beyond the function level, this is the best work I've done because I have had no challenge like this before for almost my school life. For work-related skills, I've learned a lot of things like communication-wise because of all the team projects we did for all our class, and I know that I learned how to become a fast worker by being in groups and complete a task together. By finding out what needs to be done in my team and schoolwork. Because me and the group were to find out all the difficulties to work out, and by seeing this as a challenge and a new thing, I have learned a lot from it. The most motivating feedback I got from business was that I can do the work. I just have to put in more effort by reading out carefully and doing what needs to be completed on either assessments. Once I have listened to my teacher, I began to see that she had motivated me to do my work by following those steps by steps. It has changed the way I have impacted on my work and learned a lot, and seeing the difficulties and the challenges I have now learned. The most challenging part for numeracy for me was that I had to do the math work out knowledge. Math isn't really my subject, but it is for the outside world. So I decided to challenge myself to work out from right to wrong on mathematics base. This had benefited me to do a lot for myself. I am proud that I am doing this challenge for me. This challenge was best for me. Food study was one of the best subjects I had all year. It's a simple work for people that love to make food and learning about culture foods around the world. The only difficult part I found about this was doing the online work about where and how the foods are made and looking into what type of area can these be found. The food that we learned about was some of it was difficult and most of it was pretty easy. I've learned new things on how to fix each different type of foods from different type of backgrounds.
Learning outcome 1 letter of gratitude was my personal favourite task that we completed this year, as I got to write a letter about my best friend. This task was overall enjoyable. I really enjoyed learning about gratitude and all the ways you can express it in physical and emotional ways. I don't think I had any challenges during this task, as it was my favourite task, and this task has showed me how to show more gratitude towards my friends and family. In numeracy, I think this was my best work, as this industry task has helped me find out even more about childcare, which I love because I'm currently studying Cert 3 in a childcare course. This task was a bit difficult at times because I wish we were in a classroom and I had one-on-one teacher help, as I struggled with creating graphs on my iPad. But other than that, this task was really enjoyable and I will be able to use this knowledge forever. I feel this was my best work-related skills work because this was my favourite outcome out of the whole year, as I had such a fun and amazing group and it was so enjoyable. This task has benefited me by showing me how to work in a team effectively, and it has given me an understanding on how to run my own store for the future. Overall, there wasn't much that challenged me during this task, only that I wish I could have been with my group in a classroom, but I can't wait to use this knowledge when I leave school. I think this is my best business piece of work, as I honestly enjoyed the LinkedIn, as I thought it was pretty beneficial for our circumstances with the lockdown, and this is a way of people getting jobs. I feel this is very beneficial for me for when I want to find new jobs and if we're still in COVID next year and I want to put myself out there. I didn't find anything difficult about this task, except it took me a while to get used to LinkedIn. This was my favourite food tech task, as I love energy drinks, and I really enjoyed learning about when they were legalised in Australia because I thought they've always been allowed. This task has benefited me in a lot of ways, and especially in my health and how I shouldn't have too many. I had no troubles with this task. It was so enjoyable and I'd love to do it again. This task has given me very good knowledge and I'll be able to remember forever on how important health is. I knew that I was learning this year in VCAL when I was completing all my work and handing it in on time and being able to talk to my teachers and friends about the topic that I've learned. I also knew I was learning when I can still remember all the information from the start of the year. My most motivating feedback that I received this year was when our principal, Mr. Lord, pulled me out of class and congratulated me on how well I've been doing with online schooling and sign-off. It made me very proud of myself and I knew I could finish. I also got so much feedback and support from my teachers, friends and family. I'm glad I listened to them because I'm very proud of myself and how far I've come. This year has benefited me in so many ways. Firstly, with my course that I've been studying since 2020. I'll be finishing that this year and I'm so excited. Secondly, in numeracy, we had studied a numeracy-based project and I based mine on childcare.
From the knowledge that I've learnt from both subjects, I will be using that when I leave school to start my career. If I could write a letter to myself from the start of the year, I would first say to not be so hard on yourself and to have faith in yourself. Secondly, my answer for this question would be different if COVID wasn't around, but to my start of the year self, you have done an amazing job, and I'm glad you kept pushing. I would say around 50% of everything I've learned this year I will take with me when I leave school, such as numeracy. The numeracy industry-based project has deepened my knowledge on childcare and what I want to do next year. There's a lot of tasks that I've done this year that have benefited me for when I leave school, and my favourite one is that I'm an expert on making resumes and cover letters. Some advice that I give VCAL students for next year is that it's not what you think it's like and it will benefit you. I also say to never give up and always put in and try your best and put in your best effort because it's such an amazing outcome in the end.
My favourite piece of work from literacy is Learning Outcome 7. For this, we researched 3 clients that were looking for rental properties to live in. We had to look at both their wants and needs and find a suitable property for them. I think doing tasks like these really helps us for when we move out in future, so we know what to look for when we eventually want to rent out a property to live in by ourselves, so we know what to look for. My favourite piece of work from Community Project is the passion project we did. For this, we researched and investigated into something we're really passionate about. We presented this in a PowerPoint in front of our class, and then we reflected on why we did this passion project and why it's important. I think it's important because knowing something you're passionate about will help you find jobs into something you are passionate about, and it'll help you find a job you really enjoy doing. My favourite piece of work from work-related skills is this workplace safety board game we had to design. My group designed a card game where you match a action card to a scenario card. I think doing tasks like these on a important subject like work safety allows you to have a bit of fun with your work, and you could learn more from it. My best piece of work from business is the LinkedIn assessment we did. For this, we had to create a profile and interact with class members and adding them by messaging them or adding them as a friend. I think doing a task like this on a platform like LinkedIn is really helpful because LinkedIn can help a lot of people find jobs, and knowing how to use that platform would be really crucial if you're looking for a job. My favourite piece of work from numeracy is the numeracy-based project we did. For this, we had to choose an industry that we are interested in. I chose plumbing for mine, and we had to research numeracy areas of the industry like cost of a job and labour and how much you get paid an hour. I think doing an activity like this is important if you are going into an industry that you've chosen, that you know what to expect and how much things will cost.
These 2 years have been pretty tough for our cohort. We've been through a lot. We've spent almost half of our senior time here at Staughton in lockdowns and doing online learning, and it really affects a program like VCAL with a lot of our major assessments like Market Day, Athletics Day, and Swimming Carnival being very major assessments, and we couldn't do most of them due to COVID restrictions, and it really sucks that we weren't able to do them, but it's been really nice to see everyone come together and get through these really hard times. It's been really rewarding to be able to make it as far as we have, to keep going the way we have. It's been really good. VCAL's a really good life skill teaching program. Like with literacy, we learned how to read rental contracts and find a home that suits our needs and that suits our budget. It's been good. And with work-related skills, we learn how to build our resumes and cover letters and workplace safety, and that's a really important skill to know. And with business, we've learned how to use LinkedIn, which is a really important program to know if you want to put your resume and yourself out there to find new jobs and new careers if you're looking for them. And paired with the vet program and the business, you graduate with 3 certificates, which is really good for your resume. I think if I had my time over again doing VCAL, I would choose a vet that I would enjoy more. Like, don't get me wrong, I chose plumbing and I really enjoyed doing my vet there, but I think I chose it to develop my career rather than do something I really enjoy. I just think maybe I should have chosen something a career that I'm passionate about rather than something that earns me a lot of money. That's just something I would have done over again. And some advice I would have for year 12s coming in is that just take it one day at a time. Towards the end of the year, the stress can start to build, knowing that you're not coming back to school and this is it. Like, you're going into the real world after this, and it can build on you. It can really stress you out. So I think some good advice is just to take it one day at a time and just relax and know that you'll get through it.
In my opinion, the Learning Outcome 10 was by far my best and my favourite work from literacy because it was really fun to make and I loved showing how to make a salmon dish. The hardest part about this outcome was probably the editing and putting together the video, but with time and patience I got there in the end. This outcome really helped me with public speaking and speaking in front of cameras, which is very beneficial for future jobs. The industry-based activity project was my best and favourite work from numeracy as it expanded my knowledge on both nursing and numeracy. Despite some of the research being quite hard to find, like nursing back in the day, I still learned a lot about the industry, such as different salaries, pricing of equipment, trends, and services of nurses. This outcome is very beneficial as it does align with the future job I have in mind. My favorite outcome for business IVET was the Create Your Own Business project. For this outcome again, I decided to create a podcast for teenagers and students in high school to listen to. I really enjoyed doing the research on prices of services, licenses, and equipment, and especially creating the poster for it. The hardest part of this project was the poster as it did take up a lot of our time, but I was very impressed with the results. This outcome has taught us skills on how to start a business for the future if we wanted to. My best and favorite piece of work from work-related skills is the Learning Outcome 3, which is the issue resolution, because it shows us the hazards of a workplace, which really prepares us for the workforce by teaching us the importance of OHS and WIS. Even though we live in a world where we're surrounded by networking and technology, I did find it difficult to find issues on it as I only ever view the bright side of the internet. But taking information from my research was very important for me to learn as it gives me more of an open mind to these sort of things. The My Passion project is my favorite piece of work in community projects and my favorite piece of work in general because I got to do work based on something I'm extremely passionate about, which is my culture. Writing and teaching the audience about my culture is very important to me as I want to show everyone a different perspective on the Samoan community. Researching about the Samoan culture wasn't too tough, but I did end up finding myself asking my parents about our culture and our ancestry. I learned a lot about my culture during the process of this and even came to realization that I didn't know a lot about it as much as I thought I did.
For literacy, one of my best pieces of work is writing an article about bushfires. I found this outcome easy as I had no challenges and I was able to find out new information and interesting facts. This article had taught me new things and while I was writing it, it had impacted the way I think about Ash Wednesday and any other terrible bushfires. I enjoyed researching an industry of my choice, where we had to research a task about a certain industry. I chose the hairdressing industry. One of the challenges I had was trying to find the cost of a certain service. I found the basic mixing ratios for developer at any volume when mixing colours and the apprenticeship wages for 4 years. One of the tasks I enjoyed the most when doing my research was doing developer ratios. My favourite part in business was creating an account for LinkedIn and screenshotting parts of LinkedIn to show my understanding of the social media. This task was important to me because this outcome meant I was closer to getting my cert for business. This outcome was a fun outcome in business as we are on another platform of social media. and we were able to add other classmates as friends on there and start new conversations. In work-related skills at the start of the year, we did a task to do with risk assessments, and one of our tasks was to create a COVID-19 management plan on Staughton College. This task was interesting to me because it helped me understand the COVID-19 process. While doing this task, I had learned the procedures of COVID-19 and the pandemic plan. For art, my favourite learning outcome was making a tutorial on how to make something. I had found it fun and I chose to show how to make a keychain. One of the struggles I found was trying to record my video and making sure the camera was still. My resolution to this was buying a tripod. I enjoyed this task and I was able to show something I liked doing. We had a similar task in literacy and I chose to do the same tutorial twice.
Hi, my name is Lachlan Benatsky and this is going to be my e-portfolio. So first up is literacy. For literacy, I chose my persuasive writing as my best piece of work because I feel like it was one of the only pieces of work that I put a lot of effort into and spent a fair bit of time doing it. I was really glad with the way it came out in the end just because I didn't expect to write as much as I did. Compared to all the other work that I've completed, this piece of work has been one of the best that I've done. By completing this outcome, I've come to realize that I can get work like this done by having the right mindset and just putting time into it. For numeracy, I chose the numeracy-based project because this outcome had a lot of work to it. It wasn't just a 1 to 2 week assignment, it had to be done across 8 weeks. The numeracy-based project taught me a lot about the different variations of agriculture and the processes behind it all. Working on this project was helpful because it gave me an understanding of all the different kinds of processes each separate workspace goes through and all the different kinds of rules that they have to follow. For work-related, I've chosen my resume and cover letter for the best work because not only am I proud with what I wrote, it can also help me further in my life to get a job. Writing a cover letter and resume gives you great experience on how or what the best way to write one is and how to make it most effective so your application looks better than others. Being able to write a resume is one step closer to being able to get yourself a job that you really want. By doing this piece of work, I've learned how to write an effective cover letter and resume and how much it can impact on getting a job just by the way you lay it out or write it. For business, I've chosen the LinkedIn essay as one of my best works because I have had a lot of complications with getting into LinkedIn and getting the essay done wasn't a walk in the park. I struggled to understand some of the things that it was telling me to write or post about. It took some time, but I got it and I read through it clearly and understood what it was saying. Writing the LinkedIn essay itself was quite simple because having to write about something to do with social media is just an easy topic itself. But what I learned during writing that essay was how to use LinkedIn and some of the benefits it can bring to using it in the future. For my elective, which was PE, the piece of work that I chose was my disability assignment. I chose this because this piece of work was really good on giving me an insight on Down syndrome. Working on this it showed me a lot about how Down syndrome people play sports, how they improve their awarenesses and everything like that, and that I never knew before, and it was actually really interesting to research about. I chose this as my best piece of work just because I guess this was my best piece of PE work. Like, in my opinion, I think I did well in this one, and I just really enjoyed working on it. Like, I just think that it was a really good project to do.
The reason why I picked my design brief as my best work for food studies is because it's a task that I enjoyed doing the most. I got to make my favourite dish, which is red cabbage stir fry, and it was a bit of a challenge, I do have to admit. I wasn't able to do the task in school due to lockdown, and there wasn't enough space in my kitchen, and I do live in a household full of 6 people. But it was an important subject as it was helping me pass, and it was also beneficial to me because I learnt to be more detailed and structured with my cooking. In literacy, I believe this is my best work because it is about something that's so important to me, and that is my family. While doing this task, I did face a challenge. It was hard for me to open up, to write about something so dearly to me, and then to show someone that side of me. It was hard. This task is so important to me, and I'm so glad that I got to do it because it taught me how to open up. And I find that so beneficial, and it's taught me so much, and I'll use this task and remember it for the future. I worked so hard in this task, that's why I believe it's my best work. So many challenges came upon me and it sucked. I couldn't understand a lot, but my teacher helped me out, and at the end, I got it all done. I believed in myself. And that's why I find this task so important, because I believed in something that was bringing me down, but I achieved it in the end. It pushed me, it gave me a challenge, and I got it. And I learned something as well. I learned about Australian heroes, which are so amazing, and I'm so glad that I got to do this task. The task that I have chosen is a career that I would want to pursue, and that is childcare. I don't believe I faced any challenges as I'm in a vet course, and I learn a lot of what to do in a childcare, and I've had my experience in a childcare. But I do think that this task is important because I learned so much more than what I learned in a vet course, as the internet helped me a whole heap more, and it's also taught me that I could go for my diploma next year and get other jobs higher than an educator in a childcare to work as like a first aid teacher, like to help out, or there's just a variety of stuff. So this is so beneficial because it showed me different pathways. It showed me how much time and effort it takes to be a childcare worker, and I'm very excited for my future in childcare. Recently, I did this task, and I do strongly believe it's my best work. It was a bit hard because it was a new app that I had to learn, and I had to discover all these new things that I did not know. And I'm glad that I know what this app is now, because it is so beneficial for me, as it will help me in the future with future jobs. It could help me with childcare, to get in a course in there. It's a great opportunity to have, and I would refer it to anyone to have this app. LinkedIn is just great, and I'm so glad that we got to do this task in class. This year has been a crazy roller coaster, and it's had its ups and downs, like COVID, lockdown, and it's been really tough with online school and people with mental health, which sucks a lot. But here are some of my answers of the questions that I've been asked. So the first question was, how do you know that you were learning this year? So I know that I was learning from how excited and confident I got with the answers and the topics that I was getting, and I just loved it. It brought happiness to me, and it was fun, majority of it. The next question was, what type of feedback was the most motivating to you this year? I had this one teacher, she left, she was my vet course, and she told me, because she like knew what I was going through and everything, and she told me never stop learning because life never stops teaching, and which I found very motivating, because life doesn't stop teaching you even if you're out of school. So it's great. The next question was, what does what you learned this year connect with the other content areas and with your life? So
School just made me realise with effort becomes positive outcomes. That no matter how hard it got, that I still had the support around me and to not give up. Because you don't want to give up. It's shit. You get behind in everything. Like me. Next question. Knowing what you know now, if you could write a letter to yourself that would travel back in time so that you would receive it at the start of the school year, what would you give your younger self? So what I've written down, what I've picked, what I've said, is everything happens for a reason. Even if it's bad, don't try too hard with people. And family isn't always blood, it's who you choose that is family. Obviously, I've been through a lot this year, and I would wish I knew that at the start, but then at the same time, everything happens for a reason. And I think everything that's happened this year has just taught me a big life lesson. Next question. When you consider the rest of your life, what percentage of what you learned this year do you think that will be useful to you? So I've learnt a lot that will help me with life, and school has given me the tools to help me with that. Like my childcare, a major big one. It opened my eyes so much into kids and how independent I would be when I get my childcare certificate, and I go for my diploma as well next year, which will be great. So it's opened my eyes a big one, and school has just helped me through so much with life and has taught me that it's okay to be you, be yourself. And the last question is, what advice would you give students who will be in class next year? Don't be, be good to your teachers and set high personal and academic standards for yourself and live up to them. Listen to that little voice inside your head and let it say, I said that wrong. Listen to that little voice inside your head that says, you can do this. Believe in yourself and realize that schoolwork is work. It's not playtime. That's a big one. But, thanks. My hair's greasy. Bye.
My self-expression video from myself, Tyson McDonald. Why was this my best work? I believe this was one of my best bits of work for literacy because I got to create my own questions for students about what they wanted to do next year or where they wanted to be. Were there any challenges? The only challenges for this task was coming up with questions to ask the students. The importance of this task was to come up with 12 questions to ask students on where they wanted to be or what they wanted to do next year. Why was this my best work? I believe this was my best work for numeracy because I actually really tried in this, because it was actually interesting for me because you got to create your own dog kennel, and if you know, I work at a dog kennel with dogs and that. Were there any challenges? No, there were no challenges for this task. It was all smooth sailing. The importance of this task was to teach us about running a business and how much work comes into owning a business. Why was this my best work? I believe this was my best work for work-related skills because it was my favourite task out of all the tasks we did. I enjoyed making a game for other students around the school to try and do, and Lachlan and myself put a lot of effort into this. Were there any challenges? The challenges were finding words suitable for the ages, the year levels 9, Year 9 and Year 10s. The importance of this task was to create an OHS game for students around the school. Why was this my best work? I believe this was my best work for business because I had to make 2 different types of graphs for my landscaping project coming up. Were there any challenges? The challenge I had trouble with was designing the graphs on the computer because I'm not really a computer person myself. The importance of the tasks was to teach us about inputs, outputs, and processes. Why was this my best work? I believe this was my best work for food studies because it's probably the most effort I put into out of all my work for this class, and it paid off when I finished my cooking for my final dish. Were there any challenges that I had to overcome? There were no challenges with the work, but there were only one challenge when cooking it, and that was to get it perfect. Importance of the task was the design brief and to come up with our own dish. My reflection. How did you know you were learning this year? I knew I was learning this year because it was my last year of school, the most important year of school, and my wonderful teachers that took the time to teach me. What type of feedback was the most motivating this year? My most motivating feedback I got was from Jason Kansma, who said, no matter how hard it gets in life, just try your best. How does what you learnt this year help in real life? It helps because it taught me things like getting ready for the workforce, to be positive and smart in life no matter what. A letter to myself, the most important thing I would say to myself just starting year 12 would be keep it up, just go straight to the end, it's all worth it. Will I use what I learnt from school in life? Yes, I will. Being positive and thinking smart I will use every day. Literacy and numeracy I will use every day. Work-related skills I use every day. So yes, I would use it. What advice would I give to students next year going into year 12? My advice for students going into year 12 next year is to stay strong, get through it. You're almost there. It's worth it in the end no matter what. No matter how much you want to give up, just keep going. It's worth it in the end. Trust me. Thank you all for listening and thanks for the fun memories.
For literacy, we have the World War II Hitler's timeline, which was a task surrounded around the start and finish of Hitler's reign upon those unfortunate enough to be caught up in his ruling and overcoming of many places. As for challenges I faced writing this informative piece of information, it was only truly because it was a vast topic that covered over 1,000 words, but was only really limited to 1,200 words. But other than that, I really had to make sure that my grammar was correct and any of the information I provided was also 100% fact-checked. I believe that this was some of my best work for numeracy, as I spent a good 3 hours explaining the evolution of Windows and how it differs between each version. The only real challenge that I faced with putting all this together, it was mixed with a little bit of burnout, as well as the information itself wasn't too truly interesting, but it was quite repetitive and having to shift around the flowchart all the while trying to write enough information about each version of Windows. But, within saying that, it was a very beneficial writing piece as I learned a whole bunch about Windows itself. I feel as though this was some of my best work for work-related skills, as simplistic as this piece of information was, compared to some of the other work-related skills subjects we've covered this year, I believe that this is quite a good informational piece that can be grasped by anyone who needed to know the basic duties of an employer, and that, there was no real difficulty writing this piece by any means, and all the information was quite simple. But without writing this piece, I wouldn't have really retained some of the things I learnt from work-related skills last year as much as I did if I didn't write this piece. I believe that this piece is some of my best work for business. It was quite informative for me about how the workplace and school environment should be, and how doing small little things around, cleaning up the environment can actually keep the environment in a good state and keep it safer and more green friendly. But, without covering this topic, I wouldn't have learnt as much as I did about the little small things that really impact the bigger retrospective things. But as for writing this task, it wasn't too difficult, except for it was just a lot to cover. Piece of work was hands down one of the most informative pieces I've ever written. As for its retainable information, because we covered 4 mini little topics, which was codes of behavior, ethics, on and off field, and this was all surrounded around a coach. Now, it went into the tied in and into a bit of the work-related skills side as it covered ethics and behavior, but because of writing this piece of information, I feel confident enough to actually know how a coach is meant to act and how they're meant to be on and off field with a team at all times.
For literacy, we completed a persuasive writing piece. We had to address an issue around Staughton College. I particularly appreciated this outcome since it allowed me to address a problem that affects so many aspects of the school. In my persuasive writing piece, I wrote about racism within classrooms, and it brought a lot of attention to me that things need to change and discrimination against people because of their certain colour, race, or background is wrong, and everyone's equal. For numeracy, we had to conduct an industry project. The images above is an example of my industry project. The graph above depicts the statistics of a full-time employee in the fitness business. I loved including the fitness sector into my industry assignment because it is something I have always enjoyed and been interested in. It's nice to have a glimpse into what I'm looking forward to in the future. The top right corner shows a full-time, part-time adult wage over an apprenticeship year, and the wages depicted in the first graph depicts how much a person earns in a week, and public holiday wage. For work-related skills, we wrote our resumes and cover letters for Learning Outcome 5. A sample of my resume can be found on the left. My resume and cover letter both earned me a job and enhanced my understanding on how to apply for jobs. The goal for physical education was to produce a poster flyer explaining and demonstrating the importance of a certain disability and incorporating it within the athletic sector. This task was enjoyable for me since it provided me with a great deal of knowledge and understanding of the sporting industry's disabilities and its differences.
Hi, I'm Sharnee and I'll be showing you one of my best outcomes from each subject. Literacy, Learning Outcome 3, Writing for Knowledge. I chose this work to be our best work for literacy because I found this outcome really fun as I learned more things about my favourite animal that I didn't even know. The only challenges with this outcome that I had was to make sure the information I found was true, but other than that I had no other challenges as I found this outcome really fun to do. I found this outcome important as I was actually learning something new and all the information I found was really interesting. Numeracy, Learning Outcome 1, Design a numeracy-based project plan. This numeracy-based project plan was my best work for numeracy because I put a lot of time and effort into this and it did take a while to complete. I found this work quite challenging as I had to complete it over a short amount of weeks and I had to make sure the information I found was true. This work was important because it related to an industry I enjoy doing and I also learned a lot more from it. Work-related skills, Learning Outcome 1 Project Plan and Learning Outcome 3 Issue Resolution. I chose these two outcomes to be my best work for work-related skills because it was most challenging because of having to do it all online and make sure all our team members were involved. We couldn't go ahead with marker day unfortunately, but our team worked hard and tried our best to complete the task. Business LinkedIn. LinkedIn was my best and most challenging work for business because I had to create an account then contact people on it. I believe this is important because it could help me in the future for business work or even helping others or others helping me and getting their thoughts on my work. Art, journal entry. I chose the journal entries to be my best work for art because it kept me up to date with my work and I could always go back and look at what I'm up to or what I need to do next. There wasn't any challenges with this as it was easy to just check in every week and update them on what I was up to and what I'll be working on the week after.
Hello, my name is Jack Plumridge, and this is a presentation on what I think is the best work I've done this year. In literacy, we were tasked to do an informative text, which is telling someone about a certain topic. I chose to write about Batman and his backstory because I myself am a Batman fan, and I found it really fun to do because I even learned a thing or two about Batman myself, and I got to teach others about Batman as well. In numeracy, we were tasked to do an industry project about an industry of our choice, and I chose to do the film industry because it's a industry I hope to get into after school, and looking into this was very helpful for information as well, and it was fun to do. In work-related skills, one of our tasks we had to do was to write out a COVID management plan. Well, I somewhat enjoyed this task because I wrote out how to deal with COVID and all that, and because it's a worldwide pandemic, it's pretty relevant, and yeah, so pretty useful to have. In music, I reckon I had the most fun doing this. In this, we had to debate about certain topics, and the one I chose was to debate that illegally downloaded music is wrong, and I was able to do this in a funny video, but also get my viewpoints across, and it was really fun to do. So all in all, this year has been pretty great. I've learned a lot and it's prepared me for life. I did a vet course that is based on what I want to do, and I got more involved in school activities for my last year, and enjoyed all the time with my mates, and well, I hope next year I can make a start becoming a film director. If I could write a letter back to my year 7 self before starting high school, I would tell myself that that's going to be worth it. Everything that you go through is going to be totally worth it. Whatever happens, it's worth it. It's going to lead you to great things. And so you just got to be ready for those things and wait for those things to come. And advice to students that are going to be doing this class next year is just to don't worry about it. I mean, it's only difficult if you make it difficult and fall behind, but if you don't fall behind and you get the work done, you'll be fine. You just gotta know what you're doing and prioritize your task and get it done, and you'll be fine.
Hi, my name is Liam Richardson, and this is my portfolio of all my best work for throughout VCAL senior year. Starting with literacy, this is Learning Outcome 3, Writing for Knowledge, in which I chose to write about the life cycle of a caterpillar. It's my best work because I put a lot of effort to make it look nice and easy to read. The formatting divides it into neat sections, all clearly signified by the stages. The diagrams also help the reader understand what is being said. There was no challenges to overcome, as it was a simple task that I just put a bunch of effort into. This task was important as it helped me to get better at proper formatting and writing informative pieces. Next slide is numeracy. I couldn't find out what learning outcome this was, so I just listed as numeracy. This is my best numeracy work because it showcases my critical thinking skills and problem solving skills with mathematics. There were no complications with it. It was simple mathematics that still challenged me to think about my answers before answering them. This task was important because it allowed me to practice my problem solving skills with maths. And then next we have work related skills, which was Unit 1 Learning Outcome 5 with resumes and cover letters. So this is my resume, and it's my best work-related skills work because this resume is made very well, and it got me my current job. Mr. Kansam also gave me very good feedback on it. There are a few challenges to this task, just finding references to put on my resume, making sure that the formatting was nice and neat. This was a very important piece of work because this version of my resume is what got me my current job. Next we have business. I couldn't find the unit for this one either, but it's a draft email that I made. This is my best piece of business work due to it simply being a well-written, structured, and formatted email. It was not very challenging to write, as I already had previous experience writing emails. However, it was still very important, as it allowed me to further develop my email writing skills. Next is food studies. I forgot to get rid of that's not the right unit. That's still the literacy unit. I forgot to backspace that. I also still couldn't find the food unit, because that's where none of my teachers actually put up the units. This is my best piece of food work because it looks nice, it's easy to read, and it displays its information efficiently and effectively. I was challenged by this task because I used Canva to make it, which is not a software I'd used before. That's my most important food work because it taught me how to use Canva, which I would go on to make a poster in work-related skills with it. I have some questions at the end of the PowerPoint that I had to answer, although I'm not sure if I was supposed to make a slide for it, so I'm just going to read them out. The first question was, how did you know that you were learning this year? And I answered, when I noticeably improved at doing specific tasks or working with specific things. For example, I learned how to use Canva by making posters, and I noticed myself get more proficient with the software. The next question was, what type of feedback was the most motivating to you over the year? And my answer was positive feedback. It was nice to hear when I did well at something. For example, I made a poster for my group project and work-related skills that when Mr. Lord stopped by, Mr. Cansmo showed him my poster. It feels good to be commended for good work. The next question was, how does what you learned this year connect with other content areas and with real life? I answered, food class has taught me a lot about cooking, and that has helped me a lot, as cooking is an essential skill that I will use for the rest of my life. Maths is also always helpful because maths is also a handy skill that you won't know when you need it, so it's nice to have it. The next question was, knowing what you know now, if you could write a letter to yourself that would travel back in time so that you would receive it at the start of the school year, what advice would you give your younger self? My answer was, don't stress too much over little things. Take it piece by piece at a time and you'll make it in the end. Not everything that happens will ultimately matter. And the last question was, when you consider the rest of your life, what percentage of what you learned this year do you think will be useful to you? I answered, it's hard to tell. At least 50% of it, although that could be wrong. I won't really know until I get to it. Oh, and there's one more question. What advice would you give students who will be in the class next year? And my answer was, keep calm and focus on the work, and don't let it overwhelm you.
For this outcome, we had to source relevant information and housing for the person and their set criteria of wants and needs that they have for their future home. I found this task very useful in the fact that it is something I will have to do after school finishes when I'm looking for a house of my own. It's helped me realise you do have to do a lot of research when trying to find the right home, and it's not as easy as just picking a random house anywhere. A challenge I faced was staying motivated with this task as I was having to search among multiple websites to find the right homes. This task also took me a couple classes to finally finish as it was a big amount of research. For this outcome, our task was to create an industry-based project involving different types of numeracy skills to present the data from our chosen industry. This could include the inputs, outputs, and processing of said industry. I chose to present this piece of work as it took quite a lot of work over the term, and I'm quite proud of how it looks and turned out. Some challenges I faced while completing this was trying to find enough information for all tasks, as some of the tasks didn't have much information to go off, making it harder to create a slide for, so I would just move on to a different task. I believe this task was good for me, especially for expanding my knowledge in the industry of work that I'm interested in. Our task for this outcome was to first choose 5 of the 8 employability skills that we had been studying in class that we believed were the most relevant to our group project. Then we also had to prioritise the 8 skills and establish how we had to use those skills in the group project that we were working on. I have chosen to show this task because I put a lot of effort into my answers, making sure they were at a senior standard and think that they came out good. A challenge I had was not putting enough effort into my answers the first time doing it, so I had my work sent back to me to explain it further, which pushed me to try harder. I also believe this was a good task for us to complete as we're going to need employability skills to help us in any workplace, and now we should all have a great understanding of them. For this outcome, we had to undergo a bomb threat call and ask the set questions and try and keep the alleged bomber on the phone until police could arrive. We had to quickly and maturely ask and take notes to the responses given by the bomber. We had to include questions like what substance is the device, where is the device, etc. I found this task not to be too challenging. The only hard part was keeping up with asking the questions and writing the given answers before moving on to the next. I believe this was a good task for us to do, as now we have some knowledge and experience if anything like that were to happen to us outside of the school community. For this task, we had to create a poster that promoted food waste in some way, whether that be a guide on how to recycle or a waste-free lunchbox like mine, as you can see. I really enjoyed this task as I got to be creative with it and make whatever kind of poster I liked, and I think it ended up looking really good. A challenge I had was originally trying to come up with an idea for my poster. I wasn't sure which type of poster to create and blanked for a bit there. I also think that this was a good task for us to do, as now students have a better understanding on how to reduce, reuse and recycle, causing the world to hopefully become a little more greener. How did you know that you were learning this year? I knew I was learning this year when I was completing and submitting all the work that was given to me and not falling behind in my classes, and by being able to talk about the things that I've learnt confidently and clearly to teachers, students or parents. What type of feedback was the most motivating to you over the year? My most motivating feedback was probably from my teachers, hearing what they have to say about my work and the advice that they can give me, as I know it's all coming from a constructive perspective and that they are trying to make my work better too. It motivates me to push myself to do my best and make sure all my work is up to a senior standard. How does what you have learned this year connect with other content areas and with real life? Over the last 2 years in VCAL, I have developed and practiced a range of skills varying from school-based skills such as your average numeracy and literacy techniques to skills I'll be able to use to help myself after school, such as how to apply for a loan, apply for jobs, to things like writing a resume, and many more. I believe VCAL is very beneficial for that side of things, as many things I've learnt will in fact help me after I finish Year 12. Knowing what you know now, if you could write a letter to yourself that would travel back in time so that you would receive it at the start of the school year, what advice would you give to your younger self? I would tell myself to just keep going no matter how hard or confusing it gets, to just keep pushing on, reach out to your teachers and school community for assistance whenever I need, as they're the best help I can have right now, and that it will all be worth it in the end. You've come too far to give up now. When you consider the rest of your life, what percentage of what you learned this year do you think will be useful to you? I would have to say about 70% of the things I've learned this year I think I will use to help me after school finishes. Things such as applying for loans, fixing up my resume and producing a good cover letter for certain jobs. These are all things that I will be taking with me after I leave school. What advice would you give to students who will be in this class? Advice I would give to the students next year is to enjoy your time at school, because unfortunately us Year 12s didn't get the chance to, and also listen to your teachers and take their advice seriously, because they do know obviously a lot of stuff when it comes to your schooling and the right pathways for you. One last thing I would say would be to put yourself out there, to go for positions like leadership or other school positions, things you might not normally go for, because you can be surprised what good can come out of it.
Hi, my name's Shaun Corbell, and today I'm going to be presenting my slideshow. So for literacy, we had to write informative text about something of our own choice. And the reasons why this was like one of my favourite pieces of work to do in literacy was because it was a topic of my own choice. So as you can see, there was an example there. So this is a numeracy slide, and so for this task we had to find the inputs and outputs of our selected industry which we chose in class, and basically do an investigation into the whole selected industry. And I thought it was interesting because we had the chance to investigate something that was of our own interest, and there's two pictures there, or examples of my work. So WRS, or work-related skills, I chose this task for the slide because I thought it was interesting because it let me work out what was most important to me in like, as it says here, in terms of skills and my allocation of skills. Yeah, so it's project employability skills, you can see a picture there. PDS or music, that's my other class I have. So for this task we had to choose a topic to look into. I chose copyright, the copyright task, and I enjoyed it because it would seem like an interesting task to choose. So here's my reflection. And yeah, so yeah, this year has definitely been a tough year due to lockdowns, COVID. But the things I enjoyed in VCAL were being able to work together when we could, just being able to get through both last year and this year. But as for the future, I hope to do a TAFE course next year in computing, as well as hoping it's more of a lockdown-free year. I've got a photo from earlier this year when we went in lockdown because of COVID and stuff. We went on a camping trip with my best mate Jack. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for my slideshow. Yeah. Thanks for watching.